Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Allie. I actually started this vlog earlier today, so we're going to jump to that. This is my last Edgar Allan Poe vlog, and I am super stoked to say that because one of my goals for this year was to finish all of his works. So that is what I set out to do today. I wanted to do a little bit of an intro so it wasn't a jump scare to Allie this morning. Or at least give you a warning, because here's your warning. And today is finishing up something that I set out to do this year, and I am now finishing it at the very end of my year. And I look the way that I look today because I thought I would take you guys along with me. I'm gonna do some skincare first thing today while I listen to some stories and start taking down Christmas. But what I'm reading today is what you're here for. This is my very last part to my Edgar Allan Poe series. I'm actually rather stoked about this because thinking about taking my Edgar Allan Poe series into the new year, no. I'm like, I can't. I want to preface this by saying I have multiple parts for my Edgar Allan Poe. At some point, I'm going to actually utilize the playlist and like categorize my stuff a little bit better. Maybe this will be my jump start and I'll make my Edgar Allan Poe playlist to make it easier for you guys to go and find it. I highly recommend checking out these last videos that I made because I talked about the majority of his work, which is horror, and how much I loved so many of those, and his poems and stuff like that that were also really great. And then I kind of went off into his satire, trying to figure out if Edgar Allan Poe is funny. It was quite the time, and now I am at my last part where we are going to be exploring his fantasy. And apparently some of these have a little bit of his satire work too, so whew. Bear with me. This is a bookish goal of mine that I really want to accomplish this year though. After I get through his fantasy work, I think there is a couple of things missing that I haven't read. I know I've read all of his poems, everything else. So once I get through the fantasy and the couple that I'm gonna tack on at the very end, I will have accomplished reading all works from Edgar Allan Poe. And that is super exciting to say that, but to also just like wrap this up and be done with it for my year, and it will be a bookish goal to mark off. With that being said, we're gonna jump in because I have read the first 4 and I want to review them for you guys, and I'm also going to get some skincare on my face so I can get busy on some stuff and then get into the next ones because it's gonna be a full day reading, cramming all of this from Edgar Allan Poe and for today's vlog. So you're in for a day in the life. So the first one I read is the Balloon Hoax. Honestly, a very realistic telling of somebody taking a trip on a hot air balloon type of futuristic, almost like setup, across the oceans, and only 75 hours. The cool thing about this is that it's so detailed and like so like to an extent like very scientific on like what they're doing and how they're managing this, and just the entire journey of it is really, really cool. It feels like a real life like retelling story of somebody who did do this, although obviously it's false. I think Edgar Allan Poe had a fixation on hot air balloons, which I find rather cool, but they do come up quite a bit in his stories. I did land at a 3-star with this, although out of the 4 I've read today so far, this one is actually not bad at all. Like, it kept my attention, I think, more than the others. So there's that. But I think that it's gonna be a little bit of like a broken record repetitiveness for me today, talking about how Edgar Allan Poe's other work besides horror doesn't usually work for me as well as his horror. He's very rambly, sometimes so rambly that writing in the way that is old, you know, timey and somewhat confusing kind of becomes a little much, and I find myself just like, wait, what? And then like having to reread it, and I'm trying to do a lot of them via audio today because I have a lot of Christmas stuff to take down. So bear with me. I'm hoping that I can do this. If not, I will just download them from like my Hoopla library app or Amazon something like that, like on my Kindle, my phone, or something like that, so that we can still tackle these goals today. Last minute doing things. The next one, Mesmeric Revelation. This one, I will start by saying I liked the premise. I love the setup of this. He is going into the room with this, it almost felt like a friend, although I think it is supposed to be more like a patient that he is helping in a way, but pretty much they are put into this sleep where then it's almost like a hypnosis treatment type of ordeal going on, but it is a little bit up for debate on like what is actually happening. This person is trying, the doctor is trying to like ask questions about like, what's it like where you're at? So it's almost just like, is it the afterlife? Or, you know, trying to reach further into, is God real or science the main thing? There's a lot to tackle with this one. It was a bit rambly, and the usage of slurs in this one is what really did it for me. Otherwise, I think I would have had another maybe 3 or 4 star with it, but I am landing at a 2 star. The Unparalleled Adventure of one Hans Pfaall. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. This one is a longer one. If you pick this one up to read it, buckle up because it's Edgar Allan Poe. None of them are super long, but the audio for this one at regular speed is like around 2-ish hours. So obviously it didn't take me 2 hours to get through because I speed things up a little bit, but even so, with his writing, you can't speed it up very well because there's a lot of, you have to intake because of the writing style. You have to really focus and concentrate on, which I'm glad I had the time to this morning to do so because it was such a longer one. Even though it still lost my attention a lot, I had to find myself keep coming back or like going back a little bit and rereading. So I would say it still probably took me around 2 hours just to get through this one to really grasp everything that was going on. And in the end, I found myself just kind of like, if it wasn't for this challenge, I would have DNF'd. If it wasn't for this bookish goal, I would have been like, this isn't for me. I'm not reading this. Way too rambly. The concept and idea is really cool, but again, I think for his writing style, it should have just been toned down a lot. This is about this guy, his adventure. So it is very fantasy. Once again, we have the fixation of the hot air balloon type of device. There's a lot of scientific terms with this guy trying to figure out how to take care of this hot air balloon to stay intact and travel to the moon. So really cool concept, especially for Edgar Allan Poe's time. Amazing concept, but again, I think I would have liked a little bit less of the scientific details that like, sure, make it seem a little bit more realistic, but at the same time as a reader, you're kind of like, this is boring. I need you to like have more adventure and more fun now. Where it went, I think was intriguing enough, but again, if this was just a lot shorter, it would have worked so much better for me. I am landing at a 3 star. And then the last one I've read so far is King Pest. This is about 2 sailors who stumble into a bar. They are drunk and it's a madhouse. They end up running out without paying, and it is during the time of a plague. So there's quarantined areas and they break through a barrier. So obviously they're drunk. They don't really care. They stumble across this house of the Pest. There's 4 people sitting around a table drinking, and there's King Pest, there's Queen Pest, and there's other characters as well. I believe they all had Pest in their names, but what they also had in common was each one of them had some type of like abnormal feature on their face. that was the best part of the book. I was like, oh yeah, we're getting some of his horror. The details, the grotesqueness of like him describing these features on these people's faces were so disturbing. I loved every bit of it. And then he lost me again with the story. It didn't really do much. Definitely was trying to find the humor in this because I feel like other people are getting more humor from this than I did, and I just think I still stand by the fact that I don't think Edgar Allan Poe is funny. So yeah, landing at another 3-star. I will say though, I rather like the length of this. I'm glad that he didn't extend it further, or it probably would have been a 2 again, because whew, the ramble session of this man. I'm like, now I'm understanding more the people who don't really care for Stephen King's writing as much and how they can't get on board with the rambling. I don't feel that way because I love his writing. There's only like some books that I'm like, yeah, it's a little rambling, but I can still do with it. I understand that perspective more now because of Edgar Allan Poe, and his books are so short. His stories are so short, but oh my gosh. Whenever you can't get on board with the writing and it's a ramble sesh, my God. Anyways, I'm ready to put something on my face. I need to detoxify these pores and start getting down all of this Christmas stuff. And I'm gonna try to jump into the next like 3 or 4 and I'll check back in.
To the music and the atmosphere. Now and then I feel lights fading softly all over me, and I remember last year when I was alone in my bed with all these thoughts in my head and living silently inside. It's so late in the night, my mind is drifting away. Then I dream about times I wished for a new, happier day. If a hand could reach out right now and save my life somehow, I'll face the sun again as soon as this dreary night ends. Don't wanna go down like this. My head's in a place that I don't miss. So ugly, so grumpy. Sleeping in the meantime, just stay comfy. Once everything's said and done, I know I'll be okay, I will overcome. I'm hoping, I'm here. I remember last year when I was alone in my bed, unhappy thoughts in my head, and living silently inside. Just keeping all to myself. Wished I could be somewhere else. Back when I could only hide.
Okay, so it's been a minute since I've left you guys. I have finished some more. Let me get my notes. First one was The Island of the Fae, and I rather enjoyed this one. We follow this narrator who is discovering this island, and he is telling us about it. But in this case, it is a magical place, and he's describing it, and it sounds beautiful. But in Edgar Allan Poe fashion, it does turn dark. And I really like that. I'm like, if I'm gonna get fantasy from Edgar Allan Poe, that is what I want. And I landed at a 4-star with it. The Domain of Arnheim is about this wealthy man named Ellison. And this story is about him putting his wealth into his garden, and he is making this like huge, magnificent garden, if you will. There's a lot going on in this story. I think I would have enjoyed it more if it just stayed more with building this garden and not so much of like the beauty of, I don't even know like the best way to word this, the beauty of life pretty much, and talking about this guy and Again, just kind of like a ramble sesh throughout. So I do think that this is more of a 3-star for me. It wasn't extremely long, but I feel like for the story we got, it was a little long. Like I feel like he could have toned it down a little bit to make it a little bit more of a short story if it would just focused on this garden. And when I say garden, I'm talking about like landscape. Like it's magnificent, it's beautiful, it's not just a vegetable garden. The Colloquy of Monos and Una. This is about two lovers who find themselves in the afterlife. And it's kind of like this realm of, afterlife, like between death and the afterlife. And I don't know, there's beauty to it. I feel like this was another one that was more rambly to me than I would have liked. But it's kind of like the story building up to where they go, I guess. What I loved most about this one was it's mainly dialogue between the two of them, but also like the way that things were described of them going into the afterlife was just so darkly beautiful that I really liked it. Those are the bits that really like struck me and like kept my attention. But I think I don't know, I feel like it's a 3 or a 4. It wasn't horrible. It just, there was still a moment where I got distracted again. Like I was just like, I'm not loving the fantasy, I guess. I like the dark bits and the actual fantasy bits, but I feel like a lot of this is just him wanting to mindlessly talk about a certain subject that coincides with the story, and it becomes a ramble sesh. So yeah, I think I'm landing at a 3 with this one. Then the last 2 I read, one of them is Shadow, a Parable, and then the other one is Silence, a Fable. Honestly, it's really hard to talk about either one of these because they're so short. But this one I rather enjoyed. I think I would land. I don't think I'm rating these 2 because they are so short. I think I will just rate them with the collection. But I think I would give both of them 4 stars. This one is kind of just like this ominous, like daunting story on the inevitable death. I think there's like 6 or 7 men who, God, why is it in my head? I automatically went 6, 7, because that's what my kids would have said right there. But yeah, there's quite a few of them, and they are kind of hiding in this building type. I forgot exactly what they called it, but there is a body in there, and this city is like stricken with plague, and they're hiding out, but at the same time, like being so confined in that kind of space. Obviously their minds are going to unravel with the inevitable. It was very dark. I would probably, I don't know, I feel like for the shortness of it and where it went, I could give it a 4, but Silence, a Fable, I loved so much more. Literally just starts with this random guy sitting down on this rock, and he's kind of just seeking solitude, if you will. This like demon appears like in the story and is like kind of like the narrator telling us, but like he brings on silence. So he silenced everything, and it's just so eerie and ominous, and the way it's written is so like darkly fantasy that I really enjoyed this one. It is very short. I have one more fantasy to get to, and then I have a few of his, like I said, that are just kind of like to wrap up the journey. But I had to do a sidebar because I did get 2 trees down and packed away, and I'm trying to get some more cleaning and stuff done. The day's kind of just gotten away from me. I did try to look a little presentable, but I started Bunnicula, but it's the meets Edgar Allan Poe. I'm actually reading this because I needed to scratch off a prompt on a bingo board for the end of my 2025 year. So that's kind of why I'm reading this. I was gonna wait because I'm gonna be rereading Dracula in like January or February. So yeah, I was gonna wait, but I was like, this fills that prompt. And this is the Edgar Allan Poe one. So I was like, it's perfect. And for today, it's kind of a nice little like palette cleanser in between actual Edgar Allan Poe, and it's just really cute. These stories are adorable, but there's a lot of like really like dark but cute things about them, but at the same time very kitty. I like the pictures throughout. It really is about these animals and we are in their minds. You know, of course, like the bunny that everybody thinks is like a vampire. The thing is, this is like the 7th and I think last book in the series. So like most of it's getting spoiled for me, but I could definitely see myself like picking this up to read with my youngest, maybe like picking the series up. I am about halfway, so it reads really fast as well. But yeah, thought I would mention it since this is my Edgar Allan Poe video. My friend actually gave this to me on my birthday because of the whole, she knows about my Edgar Allan Poe journey, but she also knows I love Dracula, so it was like perfect. And it goes on my Edgar Allan Poe shelf now, so it's definitely filling up over there, and I have a lot to get to, as well as you guys may know if you've continued to watch this Edgar Allan Poe series, I did start a cross stitch in the last part, and you guys, I have not made that much progress. I'm just gonna tell you how it is. It is the end of the year. There's no way I'm gonna finish it in time. I am gonna continue to work on it. Even if I'm not reading Edgar Allan Poe, it will still stay with my pile of projects to finish, but I started on it a little bit and realized that I didn't have the right floss. I was using just the regular black floss to begin with, and then when I went back into it, the black floss that I thought was just a regular black floss was actually satin. So you can tell a little bit of a difference like in the shininess of it. So I kind of just stopped and abandoned it again because in my brain I went to like, oh, I don't want to sit there and take out everything that I did. I don't know if it's going to really show or make that big of a difference. Maybe I should stop and get the regular floss and then come back to it. Yeah, I'll show you guys it. And if anything, maybe today I can finish the bookmark. When I first started the cross stitch, I started at a weird angle on the fabric that I'm using that I had to start over. So the part that I left there that I had done ends up being like a perfect like fence post thing. It's like a fence that I'm cross stitching. But yeah, I did one of the fence posts and then realized I need to scoot this fabric over. So I kept it and I think I'm gonna turn it into a bookmark. So maybe I'll do that with you guys today. But yeah, the cross stitch, that's gonna be a project for 2026, maybe 2027, whenever I get to it. Yeah, I'm gonna keep reading on this for a little bit. Like I said, the day's kind of gotten away from me, so I don't know how much more I'm gonna really accomplish. I have to go make dinner soon and take some more Christmas stuff down, but I am going to be jumping back into my Edgar Allan Poe, so the next time I see you guys, I should have quite possibly finished all of his work, which is wild.
In the night, my mind is drifting away. Then I dream about times I wished for a new, happier day. If a hand could reach out right now and save my life somehow, I'll face the
back to wrap up this video because I'm not feeling too great. To be honest, it's been a minty bee day. So yeah, I did finish what I can. So I guess to get into that really quick, we had von Kemplon and His Discovery. This was the last fantasy of his that I read, and honestly, this was just another ramble sesh, can't even talk today, about this guy who, well, he's a chemist and he has discovered how to turn lead into gold. So it's just like another story with like scientific rambling, and in Edgar Allan Poe's writing, it just really doesn't do it for me. There was some fascinating bits, but I am landing at another 3. It was just okay. Next 2 I am not rating. One of them was Morning on the, I don't even know how you pronounce this, Wissahiccon lake. It was literally just this guy describing how beautiful this creek slash lake is. I think it honestly was probably even just like Edgar Allan Poe just talking about this. I lost interest really fast. I think the descriptions of like the scenery and stuff took me back to, was it the Island of the Fae? And like talking about like the scenery and stuff like that, and that was great, but overall it was just okay. And then Bryon and Miss Chaworth. This is literally about an underage boy falling in love with an of-age woman, and although she doesn't reciprocate this, it's just his infatuous obsession with her. And I love obsession stories, but not when it's icky. And we know with Edgar Allan Poe's past, it's icky. So didn't really do it for me. I don't even want to rate it. And then the last one is finally Eureka. This is a poem, although you guys, it is the longest poem I've ever seen in my life, and I have tried to read this twice, and tonight I was sitting here and I told James, I was like, the first time I read it, I probably made it, for reference, this time around I chose the audiobook, or an audiobook on my Hoopla app to help me get through this, and I made it an hour in. Before that, I had probably made it 30 minutes in, but I read it physically that time. I soft DNF'd it then and said, I'll come back to it. So I had to come back to it now, and I listened to about an hour to 2 hours, somewhere in there. And I stopped it and I looked at James and I was like, if you set a goal to read everything from an author, and you read everything but one thing, and you DNF that one thing, do you think that that counts? Because I'm like, I cannot. And one of my things that I'm trying to bring into the new year is like DNFing. I'm so bad about it. And my thought process is, if I'm gonna spend the time to even read 50% of the way through, I'm reading that book because it's gonna go towards my goal. Even if I end up not liking it, I get that could be time I'm reading my next 5-star. I get that knowledge, you know, but I didn't read that 50% for nothing. But I'm like, if I'm still at the beginning of a book and I'm not vibing with it, I'm DNFing it. So I have no interest in reading or even listening to this long-ass poem about Edgar Allan Poe talking about the universe and like what it's made up of, and you know, his theories and conspiracies and whatnot. And people are like, oh my gosh, he's so smart. If people read this, you know, they would understand that he doesn't just write horror and, you know, gruesome things. He's a really smart guy. But I'm like, I don't care. Like, kudos to him, but like, I'll stick with the horror. So I am DNFing that. I am not reading it. But you know what? I'm going to say that I have completed my Edgar Allan Poe reading, whether it counts or not, because I am officially done. I do see myself rereading my favorites in the future, but for now, I am done with Edgar Allan Poe, and that does feel good. That helps my minty bee day a little bit. And with that, I've had a really fun time with the journey. I've collected some books through this journey of like different collections of his. I also have completed all of his poems and everything. So like that 800-page book of all of his poems and all of his stories, all of his work, I can officially check off my list. It is read, it is done. And on top of that, I still have my cross stitch that I have to work on. You guys would have seen the bookmark in my B-roll. To kind of get the gist, it was a fence post that I messed up on. I started it in the wrong spot. So yeah, I just cut it out and made it into a bookmark. I had this like thicker foam stuff that I use for like my book ornaments to make like those little books and stuff. So I just used that and I glued it to it, turned it into a bookmark. And this is the fabric that was my great grandmother's. And yeah, I still have this project to work on and add to my Edgar Allan Poe wall once it's done. So I'm really excited about that. And I feel like you really can't tell where I switched floss, so I may just continue using that one or go and pick up the other one since I'm not in a rush. Yeah, oh my god, this lighting. This lighting's horrible. I gotta wrap this up. I also finished this, once again, it stayed cute. Very kiddish, I won't be rating them. But I did bring it up to Axel and he is excited to start them with me this coming year. So yeah, I think we're gonna do a little buddy read together and read the 7-book series. Sorry if this was another kind of slightly boring one. I feel like this in the last Edgar Allan Poe video, I was struggling. So I apologize if it was boring. I hope that you enjoyed it somewhat. That is it. That is my Edgar Allan Poe journey. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Please let me know. If you don't want to comment on any of the books or stories in this video, you can let me know in the comments which is your favorite Edgar Allan Poe story ever. Now that I've read all of them, I'll be able to actually like say something about them. Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it and I'll see you in my next video.